The UK employment market isn't sitting on a ticking time bomb, the timer is already at zero, and the shrapnel is about to hit every worker in the country. Let's start with the government's biggest, most dangerous lie right now, the official unemployment figure. Politicians are peddling a fantasy of economic recovery, claiming unemployment sits at a comfortable 4.3%. That's a damn lie. It is one of the most intellectually dishonest, cynically manipulated statistics ever pushed onto the British public, and it's designed purely to keep you docile while they prepare for the worst. They achieve this statistical deceit by completely ignoring the nearly 10 million working-age people who are officially labeled economically inactive. These aren't just stay-at-home parents or long-term retirees, these are the broken ones. These are the individuals who've been forced out of the system, the disabled, the long-term sick, or the demoralized souls who've simply given up looking for work entirely because the decades of failure and systemic betrayal have made the search feel pointless. The job market has been so brutally unforgiving, so devoid of real opportunity, that they have effectively ceased to exist in the official narrative. When you include these hidden, forgotten unemployed people, the real crisis means nearly 1 in 4 working adults in Britain can't find a proper, sustainable job. Now, look deeper, and the picture becomes even more soul-crushing. Among young people aged 16 to 24, that real unemployment rate, when you include those who've simply stopped looking, reaches a staggering 31%. Almost 1 in 3 young Brits, the ones who represent the future of this nation, are locked out of the economy. They are living with their parents, drowning in debt, and seeing their prime years wasted. Graduate unemployment has hit its highest level in 15 years, with 42% of recent university graduates either totally unemployed or working in jobs that don't require the expensive degree they were promised would guarantee a future. These aren't lazy people, they are smart, qualified, educated individuals who did everything they were told, got the qualifications, paid the staggering tuition fees, swallowed the debt, only to find the finish line was just a concrete wall built by the elites. The psychological toll of this betrayal is immeasurable. The government knows these real numbers would cause full-blown social panic and mass protests, and that's why they strategically bury them beneath endless layers of statistical deceit. They lie to control you. They manipulate the numbers to protect the markets. But the desperation is bubbling just beneath the surface, waiting for a trigger. But that's not even the most terrifying, visceral part of this betrayal. What good is a job when your pay doesn't even cover the rent? If you think a paycheck means security, think again. The employment that does exist in Britain is becoming utterly worthless, and the wage crisis destroying the average British worker is far more severe than any politician will ever admit. While they boast about symbolic minimum wage increases, the brutal, unvarnished reality is that real wages, adjusted for the true cost of living, have fallen by a devastating 18% since 2019. This isn't just a number, it's a lifestyle-crushing reality. The average British worker now has less purchasing power, less money left over for food, for their children, for a small life buffer, than they did in 2007. We have gone backwards nearly 2 decades in terms of quality of life. And even those official inflation figures are themselves a deception. When you factor in the real, painful costs of survival, the soaring rents, the brutal energy bills, the inflated food prices at the checkout, actual inflation for working families runs at nearly double the official rate. The middle-income earner is being systematically wiped out, compressed and squeezed into poverty by this relentless economic pressure. That £35,000 salary you just secured buys what £24,000 bought just 5 short years ago. This is not economic policy, it is economic genocide against the middle class, a slow, silent destruction of financial stability. The job market is rigged to offer fragility over security. Zero-hour contracts now trap over 1.1 million workers in a permanent state of anxiety, offering no security, no benefits, and no future beyond the next shift. Another 3.7 million workers are stuck in part-time work, desperately scrabbling for full-time hours that simply don't materialize. The gig economy, which was sold to an entire generation as a path to flexibility, has become a prison. Workers have all the responsibilities of employment, the taxes, the travel, the effort, but none of the protections, sick pay, or pensions. Even people with seemingly stable, good jobs are drowning. Professional salaries have totally failed to keep pace with the cost of living, forcing essential workers, the teachers, the nurses, the people who actually run society, to rely on food banks just to feed their families. Think about that, the heroes of the pandemic are now queuing for charity. In the UK's capital, London, workers earning £50,000 a year now officially qualify for housing benefit because rent consumes over 60% of their take-home pay. This isn't sustainable. It's economic slavery dressed up in a polished, corporate uniform, a system designed to keep you working hard, only to die poor. You're working harder for less, and you're being bled dry. But this systemic pressure is nothing compared to the corporate betrayal that's coming next. While British workers struggle to survive on wages that barely cover basic living costs, something far more sinister and utterly selfish is happening in the corporate boardrooms across the country. Major employers are actively preparing for a mass exodus from Britain, a planned, coordinated abandonment that will devastate the job market beyond recognition. The recent, highly publicized national insurance increases were not just another tax, they were the final, concrete, politically convenient reason these major employers needed to justify moving their capital, their operations, and your job. The sheer arrogance is sickening. Every single major employer I've spoken to privately, the banks, the manufacturers, the biggest retail chains, is planning significant redundancies of 20 to 30% of their workforce in 2025. And that, believe me, is the conservative estimate. International companies are already in the process of shifting their operations and headquarters to cheaper, less regulated jurisdictions like Ireland, the Netherlands, and Eastern Europe, where employment costs are drastically lower and regulations are less punitive to their bottom line. We're not talking about small moves. 3 major, recognizable British banks are planning to shift their entire back-office operations abroad by mid-2025, eliminating a shocking 45,000 UK jobs in one fell swoop. The tech sector, once Britain's great, shining hope, is hemorrhaging positions as companies realize they can hire 3 skilled developers in Poland or Romania for the cost of keeping one in London. But the real, terrifying, game-ending accelerator is artificial intelligence. This isn't a gradual threat, it's an immediate, unstoppable annihilation of entire job categories. AI is about to eliminate entire swathes of British employment at a speed nobody anticipated. Customer service, administration, basic accounting, middle management tasks, content creation, even junior legal work, all of these roles will largely vanish within the next 18 months. Companies aren't waiting for gradual, gentle change, they are implementing full-scale AI solutions right now that will replace hundreds of thousands of workers with code. The retail apocalypse everyone predicted is finally here, and it's absolute. Major high street chains are planning to close up to 40% of their remaining stores in 2025, with job losses in the hundreds of thousands. Online shopping hasn't created anywhere near the employment it's destroyed, and automated, dark warehouses mean even those few remaining logistics jobs are rapidly disappearing. Manufacturing, already on life support, faces complete collapse as brutal energy costs make UK production entirely unviable. When these jobs vanish, they are not coming back. You must internalize this truth: your employer does not care about you, and they are preparing to replace you with a line of code or relocate your entire role abroad. This mass corporate flight and AI replacement is setting the stage for the greatest financial disaster of a generation. The economic storm is about to hit the place people fear losing most, their homes. The employment crisis is creating a cascading property disaster that will destroy Britain's housing market in ways most people can't even imagine. The system is entirely interconnected. No job means no salary means no mortgage payment means the entire structure collapses. When mass unemployment hits the numbers we are discussing, millions losing their livelihoods, mortgage defaults will absolutely explode. Banks are already quietly preparing, running worst-case simulations and forecasting default rates to triple by mid-2025. Internal documents from major lenders, the ones you rely on for your home, show they expect 400,000 households to fall into serious, irrecoverable arrears within the next year. They are not telling their customers this because it would trigger a panic sell-off overnight that would instantly crash the market. But they are preparing, and they will save themselves first. Your biggest financial commitment, that mortgage payment you sweated over, is a ticking time bomb. The rental sector will not be spared, in fact, it will trigger the collapse. Landlords are facing a tsunami of renter arrears as millions of tenants lose their jobs in the AI and retail collapse. Current data shows 14% of tenants are already behind on rent, but that number could realistically reach 35% when the full employment crisis hits the general public. The eviction ban discussions secretly happening in Parliament aren't about protecting tenants out of goodwill. They are about preventing hundreds of thousands of people from becoming homeless simultaneously, which would create a social chaos the government knows it could never control. An entire generation of young people is already completely locked out of property ownership. But what's coming will ensure a second entire generation never owns a home. With mass unemployment looming, banks are tightening lending criteria to suffocating levels not seen since the 1970s. Soon, you will need a 30% deposit and proof of rock-solid employment in a protected sector just to be considered for a mortgage. The buy-to-let market, the one many relied on for a secure retirement income, is about to implode entirely as tenants can't pay and property values crater. The market will be flooded by desperate, forced sales. Estate agents are privately warning their trusted clients to sell their investment properties now, while prices are still artificially elevated, before the crash becomes obvious to everyone on the street. The government sees all of this coming: the unemployment, the wage collapse, the housing disaster. Which brings us to the most chilling revelation of all: their secret preparations. The wealthy already know this is coming. The corporations know it. And the government knows it. They are desperately implementing secret measures, protocols, and bureaucratic expansions that reveal just how bad, and how swift, they expect things to get. This is the smoking gun. Their internal preparations prove they are lying to the public about the severity of the situation. Behind closed, steel-reinforced doors, the government is preparing for unemployment levels that would cause social breakdown and civil unrest if the public knew the truth. They are quietly and rapidly expanding universal credit processing capacity to handle an additional 3 million claims by June 2025. That is their internal forecast, and they are planning for it. New, specialized, crisis management teams are being recruited across multiple departments to deal with what they bureaucratically term mass economic displacement events. That's chilling bureaucratic speak for literally millions losing their jobs simultaneously and being dumped onto the state. The Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, has been officially instructed to prepare for unemployment benefits claims to double within 6 months. But here's the sinister catch: they are simultaneously being told to delay and deny claims wherever possible, using technicalities and red tape to prevent the system from completely collapsing under the weight of sheer human need. Internal briefing documents reveal insidious plans to change the very legal definition of employment to make the statistics look better to the public, counting anyone who works even 1 hour per week as employed. They are planning to reclassify hundreds of thousands of the unemployed as in training or economically inactive, the same trick from before, to scrub them from the official unemployment figures and keep the lie alive. The social consequences are being forecast and prepared for, too. Mental health services are being warned to prepare for a tsunami of depression and anxiety cases as employment collapses and financial ruin becomes widespread. Suicide prevention hotlines are being quietly expanded, though this isn't being publicized for obvious reasons. They don't want to confirm the link between the economy and the human toll. Food bank networks have been told to expect demand to triple, and police forces across the UK are preparing for civil unrest and looting in areas where unemployment will hit hardest. The military has actually conducted internal exercises simulating responses to widespread unemployment riots, focusing particularly on large northern cities like Manchester and Leeds, where the social fabric is forecast to fray first. These aren't conspiracy theories, these are documented, shocking government preparations happening right now while the public remains blissfully unaware of the catastrophe approaching. But the final question is, when will it happen? The timeline is much shorter than you think. The employment collapse will not be a slow, gentle decline. It will unfold in 3 devastating, rapid waves, hitting different sectors and regions at different, specific times. You must know this schedule to survive it. Wave 1, the AI bloodbath, January-March 2025. This wave begins immediately in January, right after companies close their books for the year, complete their annual reviews, and implement the shiny new AI replacements they've been testing for months. Expect the loss of a minimum of 200,000 jobs in administrative and customer service roles alone within the first quarter. This is the wholesale elimination of the office processing machine. Finance, insurance, and professional services will shed an immediate 15% of their workforce as automation takes over routine clerical and analytical tasks. These are the quiet, unannounced cuts that will shock the office worker first. Wave 2, the industrial and retail collapse, April-August 2025. This wave hits hard in April when the new tax year begins, and increased employer costs and the full impact of corporate flight finally bite. Manufacturing will essentially cease to exist as a major employer in the UK, with another 300,000 jobs vanishing in a matter of months. Retail will experience its final, accelerated collapse, With store closures going beyond anything we've seen, the high street will become a post-apocalyptic ghost town. Construction, already struggling with inflation and high interest rates, will see projects instantly cancelled, and workers will be laid off en masse as the property market freezes. This wave is marked by blue-collar and essential service industries being sacrificed entirely. Wave 3, the white-collar decimation and financial flight, September 2025 onward. This wave arrives by September 2025, when the full economic impact becomes undeniable and panic sets in. White-collar professions previously thought safe will face absolute decimation. Middle management positions will be entirely eliminated as companies flatten their structures to survive. Even sectors like healthcare and education will see huge job losses as local authority and government budgets are brutally slashed. London, which will initially seem insulated, will eventually face the worst, most spectacular collapse as financial services fully abandons the city for European hubs. Manchester, Birmingham, and Leeds will see official unemployment rates exceed 20% in their formerly thriving business districts. But it's the smaller, post-industrial cities and towns that will be completely devastated. Places like Middlesbrough, Blackpool, and Stoke could see effective unemployment rates above 40% when you include the hidden jobless. The social fabric of these communities will completely unravel, creating poverty and desperation on a scale Britain hasn't endured since the 1930s. Yet, even as this catastrophe unfolds, there are specific, necessary steps you can take to protect yourself. Most people won't act until it's too late. They will cling to the delusion that the job market will stabilize, that the government will save them, or that the old rules still apply. The harsh truth is that traditional employment as we know it is ending. Only those who adapt now will survive what's coming. This isn't pessimism, it's brutal economic self-preservation. Immediate job risk assessment and retraining. If you're in retail, administration, customer service, basic finance, or any routine office job, you must retrain immediately. These positions will be extinct within 18 months, replaced by AI and robotics. You need to transition to skills in AI management, renewable energy, elderly/specialized healthcare support, or complex mechanical maintenance. These are the only growth areas, and they will be brutally competitive. Asset protection and capital flight. If you have any savings, you must convert at least 30% to hard, physical assets now. Not property, which will crash, but physical commodities, precious metals, and essentials that hold value during an economic collapse. The pound sterling will be devalued to manage the crisis, destroying cash savings held in banks. Keep just enough liquid funds for 6 months of expenses, anything beyond that needs to be protected from the coming currency debasement. The housing decision. Those with mortgages should seriously consider selling now while prices are still elevated, especially if your employment is in any vulnerable sector. Renting will become cheaper than buying as desperation drives rental prices down, and it gives you the crucial flexibility to move for whatever scarce work remains available. That emotional attachment to property ownership is now a financial liability. Network and income diversification. Your personal network is now survival. Your connections, your favors, and your utility to your community will matter more than your professional qualifications when jobs become critically scarce. Start developing multiple income streams immediately, even if they're small side hustles. Relying on a single employer is now nothing short of economic suicide. The practical pivot. Learn practical, indispensable skills that absolutely cannot be automated by code. Plumbing, electrical work, emergency repairs, small-scale farming, and vehicle maintenance. These are the skills that will have enduring, critical value when the white-collar economy disappears. Stockpile essentials. Stock up on non-perishable essentials now while you still have reliable income. When mass unemployment explodes, supply chains will struggle, and prices for basics will soar uncontrollably, even as wages collapse or disappear entirely. The divide between those who prepare now and those who wait will become an unbridgeable gulf. Poverty or survival. There will be no middle ground. The UK employment crisis isn't coming. It's already here, hidden beneath manipulated statistics and government propaganda. When the truth becomes undeniable, panic will set in. But by then, it will be too late for most people to protect themselves. The wealthy already know this, which is why they're quietly moving assets abroad and preparing for societal breakdown. What you do with this knowledge in the next few weeks will determine whether you're among the prepared few or the desperate many. This isn't pessimism. It's reality that those in power don't want you to see until it's too late to react. The signs are everywhere if you know where to look. And now you do.